Hello PHS Ceramics, we are on to project number 3, and for our class that means we are going to be working with a combination of the first two building techniques. So what that is if you remember from project number 1, we had our imprints where we were pushing shapes into the clay to create imprinted textures and patterns. Okay? And then with our second project, we were applying clay on top of the tile. Okay, so again, on this project, we covered the entire area of the tile, right? Okay, so the third tile is going to be a combination of both of those. So the requirements for tile number 3 are you are to add applied elements to your tile as well as imprints. Okay, so if you remember my tile from the last demo, I stopped right there because I thought, well, you know what? This tile would make a great example for project number 3. So I have about half of the tile with applied elements so far. So I have these put on top, those are applied. And then I have this negative space here where you can see the original tile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then fill the negative space of the original tile with imprints. And I'm going to roughly fill the entire area with imprints. So let's get started and I'll show you exactly how I'm going to go about doing that. So when we begin to consider how we can approach tile number 3, you want to first consider, am I going to start with the applied elements, the coils and the spheres put onto the clay, or am I going to start with the pushed in implied elements? So, or not implied, sorry, imprinted. So we want to decide that first. So obviously you're going to start with a fresh tile, and maybe you go through and do a bunch of imprints on the tile first and then work around with the applied elements. Personally, I always think it's a little bit easier to come in with these applied elements, the coils and the spheres, and then go back in and fill in the gaps. So that's what I chose to do with this one. You want to think about, how am I going to accentuate my design, my existing design? So I'm going to use this tool to push in. It's this little textured wheel, and I'm going to follow along this swoop here, this kind of swooping coil. Okay. So with these tools, you do have to push down a decent amount. Hopefully this comes out all right. My clay is not quite as soft because this is a week-old piece of clay. All right, so that's kind of interesting. So we have that that clear imprint now, and it already has added a whole new element into the tile. Worked pretty well. So now what I'm going to go do, I can't do this anymore really because I don't have space for it. Maybe I could press it in like, actually I might be able to just press it in like one time in this area and over here. I'll test that out. Looks like maybe I can get a little bit in there. But you want to fill up all these gaps. We don't want any areas like right here. I'm just going to have to put like one imprint. We don't want any predominantly just blank areas. Okay, so I'm going to go through and start adding some imprints. Alrighty, so I've gone around and I've made some imprints with some jewelry pieces. And if you notice, I tried to accentuate all the negative spaces with shapes that match their surroundings. So down here I use like this home plate type shape, and it matches the corner of the tile. Over here I use this longer shape to fill out this long elongated gap here, and I put some studs on the ends there. Same with this side. Over here I used a slightly rounded design repeated to match the outer oval that it's within. And then over here, I use more of a, let's see if I can get a better angle. I use this repeated imprint to look like a texture. So this texture is repeated throughout. I am going to leave this one little blank area in the center. I kind of like how this is empty in this small area to allow for everything to breathe a little bit. It is rather busy. That's okay though. Now that's a choice I'm making. It's an artistic choice. I did say fill up the majority of the area. It is okay to leave some small gaps. So like over here on these edges, there's no imprints absolutely everywhere, and that's okay. You would lose the imprints if you had every single piece of the tile imprinted. So again, it is okay to have some small gaps. Right here, I have this sphere that I flattened out in the beginning stages of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually imprint on top of the applied element. And that's a choice you can make. I'm not going to say you can't do that, but I'm only going to do it once. I think it's going to be it's going to be a bold element having this imprint on top of the applied sphere there. I'm going to push it in rather deep, get a nice bold imprint on top there. And with these particular imprint tools, there's no stick to pull it out. So oftentimes what I'll do is I will use a needle tool, and I will just find a little edge that's sticking out more than the others and try and pry it up. Just take your time with it. And then I popped it out, and then I can just pull the tool outward, and there we go. So I've got my finished tile. The majority of the surface area is filled with either imprints or applied elements. So that's tile number 3. Hope you guys have a lot of fun with it.